Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Better Advertising with Better Media. Today, I'm incredibly excited to be joined by Laura Pattison, our VP of Retail Media. Laura, thank you for hopping on.
Thanks for having me.
So, funny enough, Laura and I met at Prosper Show when you had a super late night flight, and we were doing a session on Amazon advertising strategy. That was the first place we met. Since then, I feel like the space has changed a ton. Our roles have changed a ton. And now we have to talk about a lot more than just Amazon.
Yes.
What does that look like for you now?
Yeah, I mean, I love it in so many ways. There's, Amazon's still the biggest player, but being able to diversify and find more opportunities and more ways to meet the consumer, help the brand meet the consumer, is really powerful. You get to create different experiences and just expand your reach in general. So it can be challenging as an advertiser or operations account manager, but it's really exciting for the brands.
It's a lot of opportunity, I think, because there's a million different ways to reach a customer, and you kind of need to go where your customers go, which is a funny conversation. My household personally, I have a Walmart membership, an Amazon membership, and also I Instacart a lot of things. And that's only just based on availability. I'm like split testing who can get this to me the quickest or within the time frame that I need. And I think a lot of brands are sitting here looking at the market like there is almost too many opportunities to reach a customer. How do you know where to start?
In terms of like evaluating the retail media network?
Yeah,
I break it down in essentially 3 different ways, but the first 2 are really how do you reach the consumer? What are the opportunities to reach the consumer? And what are the Can you hear squeaking?
Yes, but it's so good. I'm cracking up.
Got that in the last.
You hear squeaking?
Now is the time. I'm so sorry. Okay, repeat the question. My answer. So, how do you decide what's best? Is where we were.
Yes.
So sorry that you'll have to clip that. So when you're deciding what's best as a brand, it's really. Are they getting access to different inventory? Is it, top of search versus we're not qualifying for that? We eliminated all of those variables. And we come to find out that we were measuring against a 14-day last click attribution window. And the other platform was measuring a 30-day click, 1-day view through plus online store or in-store attribution as well. And that was the yep, that's, how do you compare performance and have a conversation around that?
Which is insane. Yeah. You think about it again, as a brand manager, you have so much on your plate, or VP of e-commerce, any of these roles, and you're sitting here and the data on your desk says this platform is exponentially better from a ROAS perspective, a conversion perspective. Let's continue to put more ad dollars into that platform. When in reality, you pull back the curtain a little bit and realize that it's the in-store attribution could be fluffing up your numbers a little bit. In-store attribution is based on Wi-Fi usage usually, right? So you're like sitting here and you're saying, where should I actually be putting more dollars into? It's A instead of B. Even though from a traditional checklist, B looks better. ROAS, conversion, I think CPCs at this point, or view CPM at this point, is probably going to also look better. In reality, it's not, because of the attribution element. And that's why I think it's so difficult for brands to do everything well, because of issues like this. Who has the time to deep dive and nerd out on attribution windows like Laura? Probably not many people, but that's incredible.
Yeah, it's an incredible difference. And look, I don't want to discount the importance of in-store sales, right? Mm-hmm. Amazon is, of all the retail media networks that we talk about, Amazon is pretty much the only exclusively online retailer. Walmart, Target, Home Depot, the list goes on. I guess Chewy is online only, but for the most part, they are hybrid models. And understanding that those numbers directionally are super important to understand online's influence of in-store. But measuring those holistic together and not parsing them out, not looking at the in-store directionally, and then trying to compare that versus an online only attribution metric is just incredibly difficult and eventually misleading if you can't tease those two things out.
Look, we're an agency that specializes in this. This is our true expertise, and you can see how difficult it becomes from a budget distribution perspective. How do you identify reach across platforms, layer in seasonality, and then deal periods and events, and then also consider there's different attribution for every single one, and then different regulations and guidelines for ad units across every single platform. It gets pretty complicated pretty quick.
It does get complicated quick. And this is where I feel, studying and measuring to the nth degree and having the 0.01 of ROAS dialed in is the opposite of beneficial for your brand.
Yes.
Eventually Absolutely. It can harm of your not understanding what is influencing the customer journey. And that's why I'm actually really excited that Amazon has reached upper funnel so much with all of their, creative or inventory opportunities, because they've actually created ways through like AMC where you can better understand the customer journey and you're looking at things differently than you were. And I think that's actually forcing other channels to follow suit.
Yep.
And so I'm glad that they're doing that versus just a, conversion based closed loop, walled garden. This is the attribution. I think breaking out into that and having those upper funnel Thursday night football and prime TV, and then measuring that and understanding the consumer journey has actually helped our conversation of what are you doing overall for your brand presence versus just that ROAS to the 0.01 mark.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, I'm the perfect use case of that. I have, again, all three. I'm going to buy wherever's most efficient for that point in time. And if you overemphasize perfecting one platform and incrementality is another one, perfect ROAS, perfect incrementality, you're probably missing out because, again, it's so convoluted these days. The path to purchase is not linear. There's so much overlap, crossover. To your point, you can't just credit in store when a lot of times, look, if I see that it's at the Walmart 1 mile away from me, I may still look it up online, click the ad, and then decide to go in store. So I don't think there'll be a world in the next 5 years where we can perfectly track it. Maybe 10 or 15 when we have little robots in our brain and it's the AI. But as for now, I think that it's the speed to market and moving quickly and going back to the old days of a lift test. Still the brands that lean into that over perfecting their algorithm optimization are the winners.
Yeah, those lift tests definitely still have a lot of legs to them. And even beyond attribution, I know I've really dug into that one because that one is so important when it comes to measurement. I think it's also really important to understand as you approach a new network to understand what is your access to data. Do they have anything like AMC where you're tracking the customer journey, or are you just getting campaign level data, advertising specific data? Are there lag periods? Understanding attribution. When I look at performance for yesterday, I don't have the full picture yet. What are benchmarks? But, even going back to that advertising level information, I'm going to layer attribution in one more time. When we look at advertising specific attribution, so if I'm looking at campaign attribution within the ads, any ads console, conversions are attributed back to the product that drove the sale and not necessarily the product that was purchased. And again, both views are really important as a brand and as an advertiser to understand the impact and the performance on the channel overall.
And if you're listening to this and confused because you're used to operating in a model that's solely based on CPCs, ACoS and ROAS and conversion rate, know that this level of insight is available, right? Primarily on Amazon through AMC. Walmart's another retailer that you can reach out to directly and get access to quite a bit of insights on the category perspective, spend analysis, path to purchase, and being able to get a more rounded out view of how your advertising is performing past the point of just ROAS, I think is incredibly beneficial because we're seeing now that retail media is not just a performance marketing network. It's not just high intent, right? There's still so much awareness and discovery being driven on both platforms. That's where it becomes so important, to Laura's point. How is a customer even being introduced in your brand? Is it through a certain product and then they're expanding to other product lines? All of this is information that's available to a brand owner they don't necessarily realize.
Yeah.
Or have the
absolutely.
time to dive into.
Right. Probably that, right? If you're, don't have all the time for attribution, you're probably struggling with all of the volume of information and AMC across channels as well.
Well, I think you have provided a ton of value here, and we're just scratching the surface. If you're listening in and wanting to learn more about any of these, definitely check out Laura's LinkedIn and the Better Media LinkedIn page. We have been posting a lot of content around other retail media networks. We just hosted the Retail Media Network Oscars, where we voted for our preferred networks across multiple categories. Do you want to give a little bit of a high-level insight into what that was?
Yeah, we actually crowdsourced. It was really exciting to get the input of the industry of different categories, from everything from what is the most high intent targeting to the best specialty network, which is really cool. Amazon is the everything store, so come find out the specialty network and just across the board who's improving, where's the best use of AI. Measurement and reporting was in there as well. So a lot of exciting deep dives that we've talked about and we'll continue to talk about of all the retail media networks, since we are continuing to expand beyond Amazon as an industry.
We're trying to keep up with all of them, but there's some times where I see a new role. I'm like, let's wait a minute on this one. Let's see if this one ends up, gaining some traction. At the end of the day, it does add a lot of operational complexity. But if you're working with the right partners and you're working with deep industry experts who can dive into things like, how does this overlap with my customer journey? How does incrementality come into play here? I think it can be really, really powerful for brands. So, Laura, thank you so much for hopping on. Again, if this episode provided you any value, give us a like, a share, and a follow. And thank you so much.